Well, I tell you what, there's a long history of something known as the tithe, the 10%. And many of you have been taught in that regard, and that's good. Absolutely good. Because you can go clear back to the time of Abraham, where he offers up a tithe to Melchizedek. So it predates law, but there's a long history of it. It's also prescribed in the law. But then when we get into the New Testament, it's a little bit different. And yet, this is the great benchmark. You know, but what is more motivating, law or grace? What do you guys think? Grace is much more motivating. And I'm going to prove that to you as we go along. Hey, how should we give? We should give cheerfully. We should be happy. Listen what Paul says. On the first day of every week, I'm in 1 Corinthians 16. On the first day of every week, which is what day? Today, Sunday. It's the first day of the week. Each one of you should set aside a sum of money in keeping with his income, saving it up so that when I come, no collections will have to be made. And so each week, did you make some money? Did God prosper you? God doesn't expect you to give what you don't have. But as he prospers, that's how we should give. And you should look at the tithe as being the benchmark that God has set as the standard, just the beginning. But that's not the end. Okay? What's that next slide I got up here? Yeah. Now, radical generosity is motivated by love. You can give without love, but you cannot ever love without giving. And that's true in your relationships. That's true with your money. It's true with everything. You can give without love, but you cannot love without giving. These guys at Philippi, they love Paul. They love God. They love the lost. The money has come from the heart. Something that struck me, even though all the years I've been studying this letter, and Paul thanking him for the gift, it finally dawned on me this week, Paul never asked for the gift. Paul never asked him for this gift to support his ministry. Why did they do it? Matter of fact, there's several times in this letter where Paul is basically saying, that's really nice, but I didn't even need it. But they felt compelled to give. Why? They saw themselves as partners in this great work. We saw that in the first chapter, remember? He said to them, in all my prayers for all of you, I always pray with joy because of your partnership. We're partners in the gospel from the first day till now. These guys had ownership in the work that was going on. They believed in it. And they loved Paul. And they were motivated to give because it was a blessing to them. They were partners. And so I ask myself, I ask you, I ask all of us today, what is it that drives us to give of anything that we give? Whether it be our money, our time, our efforts, what is it that drives us to be sacrificial in our giving? What motivates us? Is it because of pressure? 2 Corinthians chapter 9, Paul says this, remember this. Whoever sows sparingly will also reap sparingly. Whoever sows generously will also reap generously. For each man should give what he has decided in his heart to give, not reluctantly or under compulsion, for God loves a cheerful giver. Something I've always wanted in church for years was to get rid of passing the plate. I've always wanted to get rid of passing the plate. And I'm so blessed for 5 years now, we've had joy boxes here. And I've actually had people come up, and this is where we need to strike a little balance. I've had people come up afterwards and say, hey, I want to give, but I didn't see any plates passing. And so, I have to direct them to that. But here's the good thing. This idea of compulsory giving, where we're passing this plate around, and I know, because I've been there, that feeling that, oh, great, people are going to see me. And if I don't put anything in there, they're going to think I'm a tightwad, So I guess I better put something in. And golly, how much should I put in, and blah, blah, blah. And it's like for years and years, I felt like there was manipulation going on. And it's just due to group dynamics. And so I've been so thankful. We got those joy boxes that people who give are people who are like the Philippian church. They know where to go. They don't need any preacher to twist their arm or any kind of, stewardship campaign to pressure you to go do something. You're doing it out of, I think, a genuine love for the Lord, for the lost, for each other and ministering to one another. And so I've always been thankful for that. But we also need to strike the balance because there's people who come in our assembly who want that blessing. They want to participate. And so we got to make sure that we also let them know. I think it's in the bulletin, so hopefully they're looking in there because that's what we're doing. Let me share something with you. Let me pull up my next slide. I was talking to you about this grace, generosity versus law, stinginess kind of thing. Here was God's plan for welfare back in the Old Testament. Leviticus 19. See, there you go, that Leviticus thing again, right? Leviticus 19, God set up a plan to help the poor and the needy. And it was this. If you own a piece of property, each one of those rectangles resembles a piece of property, okay? It's a field with your crop in it. And if you own that field, that when you go to harvest that crop, leave the corners for the poor. And don't go glean your field twice. If you drop stuff on the ground, leave that too for the poor. All right? And so here's the neat thing about it. It doesn't say where you go and pick all the corn and then you give it to the poor. They retain a little bit of self-respect as they engage in the thing that God's created us to do, and that's work, which is a good thing, which is a blessing, and they go out and they pick it themselves. Now, here's the thing. Let's say you're going to follow the letter of the law. God said I got to leave my corners, for the poor. And so what do? I'm on the left, and I've got one stalk of corn on each corner. One stalk. That's for you, baby. That's for you. Have I fulfilled the letter of the law? You bet I have. I've given a corner, one stalk of corn on each corner. Oh, right? But here's generosity. I'm going to make my corners a little bit bigger. That's the spirit of the law. That's motivated by grace. God, I've been given so much. I want to share with others too. You see the difference between grace and the spirit of law versus stinginess and the letter of the law. For years I've preached about the tithe and how it's just a benchmark. We're not under law anymore. That's what's neat. You can take that tithe and put it over on the right-hand side because, we don't have to just follow the letter of the law anymore. Now we're motivated by the grace of God, which is going to be bigger. And I've had people all 30 years say, Tom, well, it doesn't command us to give a tithe in the New Testament. You know who usually says that to me? People on the left. Law keepers, stingy people normally say that. And it's a reason for them not to give. And people who do not give, I question the DNA of their salvation even. Because right at the heart of being a Christian, the heart and soul, the inner workings of a disciple of Jesus Christ is giving. You look at Jesus Christ, begin with the Father. For he so loved the world, he gave. And Jesus gave it all. And you go through the New Testament, I like getting in these little arguments with these legalists because they say, they don't say anywhere we're commanded to give 10%. I said, no, matter of fact, I don't see a single example of 10%. All I find is 50% or more. You got Zacchaeus, that little dude, he gave half of his income. You look at the widow woman and she gave all she had. And you look at Jesus, he gave 100%. So please don't get in one of those legal battles with me. You'll lose. You will. I've been through this too many times. I've debated with the best of them. All right? But I've always come to one conclusion. Those folks who want to engage in that, they're basically stingy. And there's something that is like a fatal spiritual disease that's attached to their soul. And it's not going to bless them or anyone else. Radical generosity. Next slide, okay? It's rewarded by God. Now, I'm not going off on the health and wealth gospel. That's wrong. That's wrong. Okay? But you cannot mistake this, that God has promised. Right here in the Word. Read it. And my God will. He will. Not he might. He could possibly. Maybe. He says he will meet your needs. He will meet all your needs. It's more than just money. But it is money. And by the way, this is no excuse to be lazy. Okay, I just kind of sit around, hang around. God's going to just throw all those stuff. No, it's not about being lazy. He knows your needs, all your needs, your physical needs, your financial needs, your relational needs, all your needs. Why worry? You're his child. Why worry?